No
Okay,
kidding.
we are recording. Good evening. I'm Doug, W9LCQ. I'm the secretary, actually now I guess secretary treasurer of TDXS. And I'm working my way toward being the dictator.
You got the job. Go for it.
Yep.
Try to run through this agenda pretty quickly, get to the meat of the meeting. I want to introduce our new members for December. One of them is online here. Tim, or is it Tim Hager Jr., WT4DX. You want to turn your audio on and video on, Tim?
Yeah, is the video on? Can y'all see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, can you hear me? You can hear me, I guess, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Glad to be part of the club.
And you're in the Woodlands.
I am, unfortunately.
Well, it's the way it goes sometimes.
It's changed a lot in the last 10 years, and we're ready to leave, but we'll leave it at that. That's another discussion.
Let me share just while I'm thinking about it here. Share screen. I want to share this screen right here. Okay, y'all see the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, the other two new members, Tim is number 239, number 240 is Ted Smith, KB5ZR, Trinity, and 241, Fred Aguilar, N5QXP in Spring. One of the good things, I guess, if you call it a good thing about Zoom, is it's allowed a lot more people from out of town to attend our meetings, which is in our idea is a good thing. The next item is recombining the secretary and treasurer board positions. That's the way actually it's been in the club until about 2014 when it was split at the request of the secretary and treasurer at the time, Mike Bergasa. And I guess there's no reason not to recombine them since we can't get anybody to volunteer to be treasurer anyway. So that's just information. Monthly meeting going forward. We're already signed up now. I've got a couple of dogs in here with me. We're fostering a dog, a young Schnauzer mix, and he's giving our old 14-year-old Scotty a hell. So quit that. Anyway, so we're already set up for Tracy G's for meetings in February, April, August, October, and December. And the other months are scheduled social activities and of course field day. We will have to work out how to do a blended meeting so we can have people from out of town and people who just aren't comfortable yet getting out attending the meetings. I'll have to work on that. Winter Field Day is coming up January 29th and 30th. And you see there the link to the Winter Field Day website. It's from 1 p.m. local Saturday to 1 p.m. local Sunday. We hadn't planned anything for it, but the Cars Club up in Katy has planned a sort of a low-key social outing to Collin Park in Katy. And they have put out announcements on the reflector. If you got something from Jimmy Vance, shh. I don't even hear that dog yipping, but
Barely.
No big deal.
If you get off of that, he's only about a year old, so he's a mess. He's a miniature Schnauzer mix. Anyway, if you're interested in going to that event, they request that you get online, and there's a link online at their website that show that they get you over to a list that they can get your name and make sure that they've got food for you, because they're gonna feed us and water us. So I'm looking forward to going to that myself. Any other? Quit that. Any other business? Okay, well, I'm hearing nothing except for the dog yipping and yipping here.
I've got one thing to say, Doug.
Okay.
The new members, did you all get my email welcoming you? Or did I miss somebody?
When were they like early on or recently?
Yeah, when you first joined.
You
Yes,
joined in
I did.
early December.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Very warm welcome, actually. So it was good.
Well, we like it like that.
That's good, you know.
Who is our QSL manager these days?
I don't know who the QSL manager is. Do you?
Isn't that Scott?
For outgoing
that-
QSLs? It's
Yeah,
not,
for the,
Scott Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, handling the outgoing.
All right.
And I pretty much just send those to the ARRL.
I think they sit on them for a couple of years.
Yeah, probably.
No, actually, they're going out. In fact, if you go to the ARRL website, there's a very nice video by the head of the QSL Bureau. And she talks a good talk. It was very interesting.
I heard rumor that they only shipped out cards twice a year. Is that true?
I didn't get that impression. I got the impression they were almost back to full service. I guess whenever a box gets full, they send it on.
okay. I guess we're ready to go to the program. I can mute myself after this and not let this dog bother everybody. Actually, we have two programs tonight. The first one is wind test contest software presented by the renowned contester and legendary CW operator Dave McCarty, K5GN, followed by a presentation by Alan Breyer, N5XZ, on setting up N1MM Plus for serious contesting. So without any further ado, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to Dave.
Okay. Well, I got to figure out how to do this in a way that's informative and not too herky jerky. But I'm going to share my screen in a minute. But I'm not sure what the best way to do this, because I want to be able to. I'm going to reorient this camera in a moment to show the keyboard, so that you can see what happens when you do things on the keyboard. I think that's a part of using the software. And when I share my screen, the keyboard, I guess, will be in the smaller window off to one side. We'll see how this works. Some of you on the screen here, I think, have been out to the W5, the W5KU station. Let me get myself out of the picture here and step back a little bit and give you a brief tour. This is the main operating chair, sitting chair. Oh, that's really wonderful. This is the left side over here. You can see an alpha amplifier with some watt meters on top of it. Dennis has all the watt meters in line so that he can see which one gives him the lowest value, which allows you to run the most watts. And that's a joke. And then on the left here is an FT1000 MP. And this is an ICOM 7300 that I was using for an experiment. It's just there, not even on, not even hooked up to anything. These are controls for antennas. This is a big matchbox for the 160 antenna, which is good on CW, but not good way up at the other end for sideband rag chewing. Up here are some filters. These are filters for between the radio and the amplifier to help be able to do SO2R. And then there's rotators for the various antennas here. Then you can see some of those rotators. There's a 2 40-meter rotators, 2 20-meter rotators, a 15 and a 10. And then there's a little box right up here on top of the 15-meter rotator is a NUC, an NUC NUC computer. That's what I'm using to run the station stuff. And then a little more ways around here, you can see the other radio for SO2R. This another MP Mark V. Underneath it is the paddles and the mouse. In between the two, you can see a DX doubler. I'm using old technology for SO2R. There's also a small switch here for the 160 beverage selection. Spinning around a little bit more. There's another alpha there. They're alpha 99s. They're manual tune, but they're really very repeatable with the dial. So it's more like turn the dial and go. And then some more selections for antennas here. This is 15, 80, and 40. And this is a 40-meter beverage switch. And down right there is the 80-meter beverage switch. So that's just basically to show you how the setup is. I sit here with a one keyboard setup, right? So some people are using two keyboards for SO2R. I don't prefer to do that. Swinging further around, there's another station. Ooh, don't fall down. There's another station over here that's it's tied in via some switches, but there's a Yaesu FD1000 MP and a Commander, what is it, HF 2500 amp, and another tuner for 80 meters. I'm not looking at the screen, so I can't tell whether you can see all that. At any rate, that one, I can switch that one into replace the right side radio, which can sometimes be helpful in contests, but most of the time it just sits there. It's primarily the one that Dennis uses for rag chewing. All right, so that's briefly how the station is set up. Now, let's, I think I'm going to share the screen and do some things with WinTest to show you briefly how it works, and then maybe I can orient this thing so you can see my hands on the keyboard. Yeah, perhaps that'll work. All right. Zoom in. Share screen. Share this. All right, can you see the screen?
Yes,
Yep, just got it.
Okay, good. It's really cluttered because I have a lot of these little windows open. If I were to close all the windows, I think I can do that. Close all windows. This is the basics. You have a little patch on here that shows, I'm going to use the mouse to highlight things. This shows people you've worked. Now this is the end of NAQPCW contest that just was listed just this past weekend. And basically this shows you your last 9 contacts, and the 10th line is where you're working somebody else, right? So typing.
Sure, that's not a dupe.
Well, it says it's a dupe. Yeah.
Yep.
It says it's a dupe, right? So
Yep.
from a simple perspective, this is what you can do. You can type calls. You can. It remembers that it's Alan in Texas from the previous contact we made. You can also. Let's see if I open this up. Maybe you can hear. Switch to the dummy load. Can you hear the CW?
yep,
Yep.
Okay, so that's, I just pressed F1 to send CW. So the computer will generate CW. But the really useful things about a computer are the other information that you'd like to have. And let me pull up a couple of them. One is the check partial window. Another one is an N+1 something similar window. And for this, if I type W9LCQ, right? So as I'm typing, it's telling me calls that are somewhat similar. So W9QL is one letter different from W9L. But once I put in LCQ, it tells me I haven't worked them anyway. If I was to put in here, let's see, N2IC, did I work him on this band? Yeah, I did. Who did I work? I didn't work on this.
What band are you on?
So this is, I'm on 40 meters. And so if you look at this, there's QSO number, band, time, call sign name, state or province. This sort of information changes depending on which contest you're in. So if I was to pause here for a moment and restart this demo log, this is what it looks like when you're starting up. So it's asking you, what contest do you want to be in? And you have to give it these information so it knows sort of how to populate things. And you can choose from a long
You have
list
to fill that in for each contest?
well, no. You have to set the contest name. It's a little different from N1MM, and I know that Alan, I think you're going to be able to explain some of how N1MM does it differently. But the WinTest is fairly simple in the file strategy that it has. You create a new log file for each contest, as opposed to a new segment of the database that uses the same stuff as before. So you learn some tricks. If I was to go on and start a new contest, it would come up in a default, very simple configuration. And what I do is I simply copy the log from the previous time I did it, make a new instance, and then clean out all the contacts, and then I'm ready to go. So anyway, but this is what it looks like. And the key thing to know is that you can choose from a pretty wide range of contests, a lot of European contests and so on. And then once you've decided on that, you can tell it whether you're a single op or multi-op or low or high power QRP, what mode you're going to be operating, those sort of things. That's pretty straightforward, right? Okay, let me get back to where I was. Okay. Let's see if it shows up with all the windows. Nope. Okay,
There it is.
so those two windows are very useful for knowing whether you've worked somebody or not. So suppose you come up on N8SS. Well, no, he's not in there. So you can talk to him. And you have the ability with this setup to be in two modes. One is run mode, and one is S&P mode. I don't usually use that, just make that distinction. That's my preference. But at any rate, you can set up messages for CW, the standard messages. And then you also have some additional messages you can set up and use but that's a little more complicated. I'm going to try to talk about this just at the very simple level. This is your CQ message. This is your exchange message. This is your 73 message. This is your call. This is the guy who you're typing in down here in the call window. And then a couple of things that I put in, like I like to be able to ask, what is your number? Number meaning, what did you say? Please repeat, or a question mark. This is based on the old CT program style of operating, where to work somebody, if you're calling CQ, you call CQ typically with F1. And then if somebody calls you, let's see if this N8SS guy calls me, then I would push insert. And it sends his call and the report. And that comes from this macro called the insert key. send the logged call, abort the contact if it talked to him before, guess his exchange if you have information about what his exchange ought to be, and then send the exchange message. Send my name and my state. Fairly straightforward. And I think this should be familiar to anybody who's used computer logging for a long time. And then when you're done, you send the plus message. The plus message sends his call again if you've changed it, because he says, no, my call is N8SH. So it'll send N8SH. And then it'll send your message, which in this case, I say thank you. It'll cause a carriage return to occur, which means press enter key and log the QSO and send my call. All right. So I can do that. Let's see. I've sent my name and state to him. He comes back and says he's Bob, and I'm using the space bar to move between these three fields in the log. And he's in Ohio. So then if I push the plus key, which there's a plus key over here at this point on the keyboard. There's also a plus key up here, which for this program, you don't have to push shift. It just knows it's plus. And I'm ready for the next guy. So that's a running contact. If you're tuning and you find somebody like K4FMH, and you see that he's not a dupe and you want to just send your call to him, you can push the F4 key, which as we saw earlier was my call. And if he says, oh, K5GN, my name is Al in Alabama, well, then you can press the F2 key, which is the exchange key. And if he says Roger, you can enter. Now it started sending there, but I forgot to turn this off. I have enter sends message turned on. If I just push enter, it would just log the QSL. From about this point on, it starts to get more complicated what you're doing with the software. Let me open up a few more windows. I keep this window open, check multipliers. When you talk to somebody, say, for example, if I put N5XZ in, it knows that I've worked him on 40 meters. See it? I worked him on 10 and 40. Shame on you. We didn't work on enough bands there, Al.
No kidding.
But it also tells me that I've got Texas on all these bands. And it tells me the first station I worked in Texas on all the bands where I've worked Texas. So it turns out, of course, by this time in the contest, the end of the contest, I should have worked Texas on every band, and I did. All right. So that's a useful window. It also has some additional information that's really designed for DX tests, where it tells you what country it is, what heading it is from your station, and on the short path and the long path, when the sunrise and sunset might be. So those are useful things that a computer can do for you that you used to have to look up in a table somewhere or know in your head, right?
Remember dupe sheets?
Yeah, dupe sheets and sunrise, sunset tables and long lists of every prefix and what the heading is, right? So that's that window. Another similar window is the check call sign window, which just tells me which bands I've worked that guy on. It's a little bit redundant with the check multiplier, so I often don't have it called up. Let's see. Although I like putting it in there because having that window open, I could do things like ask my buddy VE3EJ or check calls. Why haven't I worked you on 160 yet? But at any rate, that's what that's for. And then let's see another window. Because this is a contest with multipliers, both states and DXCC, I have these two windows where I can see what I've worked on each band. If I'm not making a QSO with a guy in Alabama, I could be thinking, well, I ought to be able to find one. It's short skip right now in 40 meters. I should be able to find them. Similarly, this keeps track of the DXCC. This window is actually very big, or can be very big, because it also has all the other continents. But for the NAQP, the only multipliers that are outside of the US and Canada are North American. All right, more windows. I have a status window. This is where you see that your radio is communicating, right? As I turn the knob, you can see 7007, 7006, 7005. Similarly, over here, it's 20 meters. I'll talk about that interfacing in just a moment when I've finished doing these windows. Let's see. I keep the summary window up so I can see what my score is. That's over there on the right. You may not be able to see it underneath the meeting thing. I also keep a window open that is a world map so I can see where sunrise and sunset are. I've got the map zoomed out and then the window closed up a little bit. So I'm just looking at North America because that's what was really important for this contest. Even though, as you can see, I worked in OK1 as my last contact, which kind of frustrated me. I was trying to listen to 2 stations at once, and this weak OK1 called in on 80. And, I had to sort of concentrate to finish and get him in the log before the contest was over for me. I'd run out of off time. So, so that's what the world map looks like. And I also have a very useful window here called rate, the rate window, which gives you a moving graph of your last 10 or last 15 minutes rate. And you can keep track of your time on, time off, other things about elapsed time since your last SO, and your CW speed. So this is about keeping track of whether you're going as fast as you want to or hope to, and when to take an off time. All right, so that's a very useful window. And for those of you who do use assistance, there are radio windows where it'll give you either a list or a band map view of what's coming in on packet. Now, I did not, it seems that I have stopped the DX cluster. Let me restart it. And you'll see that once it's up and running, it'll start populating things in here. Oops, it didn't start. Why didn't it start?
Is your internet down?
Yeah, that's if the internet were down, you wouldn't be able to see me.
I guess that
but-
was a dumb question, wasn't it?
No,
Right up there.
I think it's. I think
Alan, that's one.
First thing I would think of, though, if you cluster's not
Yeah.
working, the internet's down.
right. I think it's something. It's something else that's going on here. Maybe because I didn't want to have it running, so I disabled for this contest. But at any rate, it would fill in things, and it also keeps track of guys that you've entered. So I last worked K4 FMH on this run frequency that I was on, 7009. And if I, for example, if I found a ZF1A or yeah, ZF, let me go to 80. If a ZF5T, I know I didn't work the ZF on 80. So there he is, and he's on 3537. You can see that I over here that I'm on 3537. If there's a keystroke for putting him in the band map, I think it's Control Enter. Yeah. So now there he is in the band map. And if I couldn't break the pileup, and I want to come back a little later, I could do that. Even though I'm single up without assistance, I could keep track of things there like that. I usually use the list but you can also look at it like this, which shows where you are with a little yellow cursor, and where the stations are that are marked in green, and the color is dependent on whether you've worked them or not, right? So that's very useful.
Dropping out.
Am I dropping out?
No, you're okay here.
You're fine.
Okay.
Okay, here.
All right. So let's see. Right, clock window. This is normally you'd have the clock running so you could see what time it is. And the only really much more useful window is this one. This is the secondary radio window. And so when you're doing SO2R or interleaved contacts, 2BSIQ, this is useful, and this is what makes the wind test the way I like it. It's really good for this. As you can see, this is the secondary radio. I'm currently on 80 with the radio to the left of the keyboard, and the radio to the right is on 20. And so you can see here that it says we're on 20 on the second radio, and it has controls for your headphones, and it has something useful here that's grayed out because I haven't turned it on, but this is, they're called scenarios, and they're an additional set of messages or things when you push the buttons, messages to do. And so this is complicated. It's wind test ease language, right? But this controls the headphones. So you could conceivably, while it's transmitting over on the left, be listening with both ears to the right or one ear to each side. But anyway, that's a whole nother level of abstraction, which I don't want to talk about unless you guys want to talk about it later. So let's see if oh yeah, there's a pretty good suite of options. There's some things about the network. There's the complicated stuff that's really not that complicated once you figure it out, about communication ports that are connected to your radios, for example. If your computer is old enough to have a printer port, you could use that. My computer, this Nuke, has replaced an old XP laptop that was just starting to be flaky. This is your network setup, and whether you're going to use a sound card inside your computer to generate voice. Similar to the CW memories, you can have, I think it's 5, maybe 6 or 7 voice memories. I think it's 7 voice memories. And you generally would set the voice memories up fairly similarly to the way you have your CW messages set up, with a CQ and an exchange and a 73 message. Since you're going to say his call, this doesn't provide software for generating voice, but it will replay what you record. I don't have that hooked up into the audio circuit, so I'm not going to try to demonstrate that to you, but it works the way you would expect it to. And then for each of the transceivers that you have, you can set up what the baud rate is for talking to it and so on. In addition, through an N6 TV S box, which some of you may be familiar with, it's an interface box that he originally made for K3s. I'm generating the CW within the computer and sending it through these virtual COM ports. This is the it's sort of in parallel with this radio. I've got this is ST, which means stereo, which means whether the headphones are in dual mode or just left and right. This is which radio is sending and which radio is receiving. which is the audio switching between the two. And then this is CW and push to talk. And that all goes to the DX doubler through the virtual COM ports to the S box to the cord, the cable, the custom cable that goes to the DX doubler. That's also probably more than you need to know about, but that's the way I've implemented computer control of sending and receiving. The cat lines for the two radios just go directly to COM ports. These other two virtual COM ports. All right, so let's see what other few things I want to show you. Lots of this stuff is configurable. Of course, you can change the font size. You can make them bold or not bold. You can have the headers of the log left aligned, or hidden, or centered. You can hide the QSO number if it's part of the exchange. You'll see it already, so it makes it a redundant column. All that sort of stuff. And then for each window, you have the ability to decide whether you're going to see all bands, or just one of the bands, or just a few of the bands, or to change the font size, to change colors, to change things to alphabetical order or call area order. Yeah, there's a whole lot of flexibility there. And the key is to just kind of set that up the way you like it, keep it that way for every contest, so that you're not thinking much, you can be in automatic mode. All right, let's see, is there any other option that needs talking about? As you can see here, there are other ways to connect from the computer to the automation. If you have microham, it supports microham. If you use the generic, I can't remember what OTRSP stands for, but it means the generic way of commanding something to a device to do this audio and sending management. You have some things about RTTY that I don't use because I don't do much of that. And then, of course, a bunch of things to do with CW. There's the standard and additional messages. It supports the WAE QTC function. You can manage how you send serial numbers if that's part of the exchange. You can decide whether or not to have it send a corrected call when you say 73. For example, I said earlier, if you copied N8SS, but it was really SH, and he tells you, I'm SH. Then when you've changed it, if you have it on, it will automatically send that. If you have smart correction on, it would probably only send the part you changed, like SH.
Yeah, either prefix or the suffix, yeah.
Yeah, right. And there's some things about auto sending. You could cause it to start sending when you've typed in a few letters, and so on. It's a little bit complicated.
What kind of file does it generate for submission?
All right, that's a great
Contesting.
question.
Huh?
That's a great question. So my daughter's trying to call in. She does not know the code. So at the end of the contest, there's some things you do. Well, I should have told you about these things up here first. Let me briefly talk about this and I'll get to the end of the contest. There are a bunch of icons up here for things that you can do. This would take you into a split and let you enter the split frequency. This is radio 1 or radio 2. That's sort of switching back and forth between them. The way you switch back and forth between them from the keyboard is you use the star key over here on the keypad. I have that mapped to a key that I never use, which is this one over here that has the tilde and the backwards apostrophe. But either way, when you switch, it changes the window down here so that you can see you're over on the radio on the right. For me, that's the radio on the right. This one's and if I switch back, I'm back on 80, right? And you notice that it also swaps up here. I make this one the primary, the one on the right, and the one on the left is now the secondary radio. All right, there are some, if I make a new one, these are pretty obvious from their similarity to Windows icons. This is going up or down a band. I never use these. And there's a key shortcut for that, Alt F1 and Alt F2, which is about the same, I think, on every program. And I never use that. I simply change the band from the front panel of the radio since it's a single push button. And because of the cat, the log knows you just did that and it changes with you. All right, and I keyboard mode, I'd have to look and see what these mean. Send a gab, that's something for multi-ops, sending a message to another op in your network, etc. I never use that, and I seldom use these during the contest. These are all things you do to set things up. All the action should be happening through your keyboard and your mouse. And I hardly ever touch the mouse with this software. M1MM, I would use the mouse a bit more. But with this one, I have it all set up so that I don't have to use the mouse at all. Except maybe if you're talking about some of the things you do, if you're operating assisted and you want to click on a spot, then the mouse is very handy for that. So for example, if I'm on 3542 and I want to go to ZF5T's frequency, if I double click on it, it moves the frequency there, and now I'm where he is. One of the good things that I would like everybody to do is to use this thing right here. It says randomized transmit frequency in CW. If you're not automatically moving the knob after going to a spot so that your signal stands out from other people's signals who are calling them on CW, if you're not remembering to do that, click this so it automatically does it for you, because nobody on the other end likes to hear 5 signals all 0 beat, because it just sounds like key down. It doesn't sound like call signs, and it's really hard to pull people out. So that's just a public service announcement there. All right, so the key thing that you asked about was, what do you do at the end of the contest? At the end of the contest, you create log files, and you obviously are going to create a Cabrillo file. And I like to create a summary file because that's what I call up when I'm providing on 3830 a claim score. And those two are the ones you absolutely are going to do, right? At least this one, so you can turn it in. You can also create an ADIF file for use in uploading to Log of the World, or putting it into your general logging program, importing it to your general logging program. You can also, and I do this sometimes, create a CSV file, which you then open up in Excel, and you can do some analysis of your log. I do that from time to time, especially when I'm using, like, looking at somebody else's log and trying to understand what I missed, what I can learn from it. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, well, this is a great time to ask, for y'all to ask any other questions. Take me back to something I confused you with or whatever.
What kind of support do you get for that program?
Support. Well, that's a good question. This program's been around for, gosh, I don't know. It was it's probably more than 15 years. There's let me see if I were to call up this. I don't know if you could see if I call up a different screen. Can you?
No, you'd have to reassign. That was your shared screen.
Yeah, you're right.
Or drag it over.
Yeah. There we go. Let me see. Just a minute. Well, let me put it this way. I'll just tell you about it. There's a very good web-based help and manual system. It's good. I say it's good because just about everything you need to know is in it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get to the right page of the wiki, but it's all there.
Is that
In
under the
addition-
help menu item up there?
So yeah, I can't get there because it keeps showing me the menu for the Zoom up here. I can't see what I'm doing. But yeah, under help, what can I do? I can move it down. Help. Can you see what I'm saying here with help and use online documentation? and
Yes,
so on?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can use the online documentation, and that takes you to the help thing. That's complicated. So when you do that, for example, if I were to type for help on this particular window, it's going to call it up, but you're not going to see it because it's in a different window. I'm sorry. Hang on here. If I stop sharing and share again,
Tell it to
And-
share the desktop.
I'll share the desktop. And now you should be able to see.
Yeah, partial checks and
Yeah, so let me call this back up. So this is the check partial window, which is what I was asking for, and this is the form of the wiki. It's actually took me to that spot within a long list of stuff called the Windows part of the menu, right? And so it has information about every window that you can open up and what the options are and so on. There's also a sort of like a users group chat email group. I don't use that or haven't used it in a long time, so I don't know how active it is. It's pretty good. I also have a few buddies like N6TV who really know this software really well. If I get into a bind and can't figure out what to do. And if you guys are using WinTest, feel free to call me and ask me how to do something. Does that answer the question well enough?
yes. And now, is there any cost for this program?
It's I can't remember. I think it's yeah. There's a price for it. I
Is it
paid
one
so
time
long-
or?
Yeah, it's a one time. And once you're in, you can get all the updates you'll ever need. Let's see.
Like $60.
It's something like that. I don't think I have it called up here. WinTest. So here's the home page for WinTest. And you could use a trial version for a little while and you can buy it. So let's see what it says when you buy it. 50 euros. Okay. So it was forever except for major updates, and they haven't done a major update since 2000 something, 2003, 4, 5, 6. I don't remember now. I'm operating it. I think. Well, I don't know. Let's see what the current version 3. Yeah, I'm at version 4. I think I'm operating at the previous stable version. I like to let other people find the bugs. And it's very straightforward for updates. It's really easy, and it doesn't force you to do updates. You can do them whenever you want. I may not be at this version. I may be several versions back because I haven't thought about it in a while. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions.
Dave, I got one.
Yeah.
When you're programming function keys, is there support for clearing the RIT?
There is, but it's a script that I got from N6TV, Bob. Let me show you how I have that set up. It's a great question. So in the options, CW, standard messages, I don't have it in the standard message. because I'm always operating in the advanced SO2R mode, which means I'm always in one of these scenarios, which provides an overlay of some additional stuff that goes with the main memories. So here's what happens if I push F1 in this scenario called S&P Focus CW. This means I'm running on the main rig and I'm tuning on the secondary radio. That's what my thinking is for all of these memories, is to support that. So reset means reset anything that I could have screwed up by aborting a contact or aborting something earlier. That resets a whole bunch of logic in the background, which I don't want to explain here. It would take until midnight. This says set all my hearing over to the secondary radio because I don't need to listen to the side tones sending CQ over on the main radio. This is a reset, another reset that resets some other logic that came after this reset. That was designed later. And this is the clear RIT script, right? And then there's an action that resets a flag. It says, I'm not in the middle of a contact. And then there's, this is a custom thing I do. This is another custom thing I do. Then it says F1. Oh, there it goes. Now we're finally sending something, sending this CQ. And at the end, it's going to switch to keep one ear, my right ear, on radio number 2, and my left ear on radio number 1. So that's how I use these scenarios to control what's going on when I'm doing SO2R. Hope that makes sense. Now this is a script called clear RIT. If I go to, I beg your pardon?
I was going to say, it looks like those things that are part of the programming for the software, not scripts, all begin with a $sign, and scripts begin with a £.
That is correct. So here's my list of scripts, right? And some of them I use and some of them I don't. If I open up, can you see this this notepad window? Yeah. So this is the clear RIT command for Yaesu. I got from Bob all of the possible options, I think, because I've bought an ICOM radio that hasn't arrived yet that I want to insert over here. I also have this 7300 from a while back, so I could modify this clear RIT. And the way I have it set up is the software, because I configured it so, right? In the configuration, I tell it what my radios are. I told it was an FT1000 MP. Well, there it is. So it knows, it has a constant inside there that is which radio is it. And so I've adapted this to handle both the ICOM stuff and the FT1000 and the FT2000. And so it's a whole bunch of simple programming in this language called Lua, L-U-A. And basically it's just a bunch of if-thens, and there's an API and a let's see, what is that? What does the A stand for? Something programming interface. One of you guys smart enough to know what that is. Application programming interface.
Yeah.
And it includes commands. So here's the WinTest command for get the radio ID. I'm putting it in here, and get the radio address. So I know which radio I'm talking about, because I might have an ICOM over here and a Yaesu over here. And then it's going to turn the RIT on and set the RIT to 0. And then it's done. So this is if it's an ICOM, it does it this way. If it's a Yaesu, then it has to decide whether it's an MP or an FT1000D or an FT2000 and send the right code, right? So this is a little code here.
Are those done with cat commands?
Yeah, so that just causes it to send a cat hex command that clears the RIT. Really straightforward.
Cool.
And at the end, it closes up. So I have a bunch of these that I use for customizing what I do for SO2R. So for example, I'll show you a couple of these. Let's see. I have, I use this one here. There's a lot of stuff in here I don't use much, but I use this one. So when I push F8, which is not a normal memory, remember you saw there are F1 through F7 were memories. F8 normally would call up a window. Well, that window I already have up and I don't want it to toggle on and off. So I leave it on the screen, and then I use F8 to run a script. And this script is going to call CQ, not on the run radio, but over there on the secondary radio. Similarly, I have an F10 that's going to send my call over on that other radio. So if I find somebody I want to work while I'm tuning around on the other radio, I can call him with one keystroke, and that keystroke will also send a CQ on my run frequency, and I may get two things going at once, which is really fun. But at least it keeps the frequency busy. And I have the option, because sometimes I prefer to send DEK5GN as opposed to just sending K5GN. Strategically, sometimes that's better. And so I have the choice of F10 or F11 for that. And then if he calls me, comes back to me, I can send the report to him with F9. And all that'll happen up here in the second radio window. So that's a little bit of a complicated dance. I don't want to try to show it to you, but that's what these are for, is to do some different things. So that's a little complicated, but it makes it so flexible that I can make WinTest do what I want it to do, which is real important. I try to minimize the amount of hand motion, the amount of use of the mouse, the amount of two-stroke keys. I try not to ever have to use an Alt or a Control or something like that.
Yeah.
There are some places where I do use it, but there's so few that I get better at it. I don't make as many mistakes that way.
So using this software and your techniques, what kind of run rates could you achieved?
Let's see, my personal best from DX was with one radio, and it was a 237 in the
Wow.
CQ worldwide CW. That was when I was in Qatar.
Wow.
That was really, really, really fun.
It
And
helps
then-
be rare.
And I was, yeah, it does. But it also was amazing. I actually did that into Europe, not into USA. And it's harder to do with Europe. They're a little bit more unruly than the American operators are.
Unruly is a good word.
Yeah, it is. I also have gotten up over 200 in the two radio interleaved QSOs mode. Like 120 QSOs on 20 and 95 QSOs on 15, or vice versa. I can't remember. I don't remember my personal best. I have to go look them up.
Pretty impressive.
Well, thanks. But N6MJ from was he from ZF? Was he had a 450 out on CW.
Gee.
And everything has to go perfect for that kind of rate. But he did call a few CQs without an answer in that 450 hour. It's amazing. But anyway,
You ran out of fodder.
yeah, 2B SIQ, 2 bands synchronized interleaved QSOs is the technical name for it that I think CT1BOH came up with. But I call it Mojo mode. for N6MJ. 'Cause he is the master. He's the Zen master at Mojo Mode.
Doug,
Yeah.
how long have we got before we have to give up a slot?
Oh, about another 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, good.
I was
So-
gonna say, if we don't get done with this one, maybe we can get Alan to do N1MM next meeting. And he can look into those new things that are got the hidden meanings in them.
Yeah, that intriguing email sent out earlier today. Or
Well, it's
Roby
up to
did.
him.
There's
Um,
there's 1,000 options in N1MM. I already don't know without already not knowing those.
Well, we'll give you a month to bone up on them.
Shit.
So let's see. There's another tool that I find very useful, which is redefining keyboard keys.
Oh,
So I-
okay, cool.
So I told you that that the plus key way over here on the right side of the keyboard is what you click to enter the QSO. Insert is what you use to start the QSO. So I've mapped those over to these two keys, the apostrophe and the semicolon. You're never going to send a semicolon. You're never going to type a semicolon in context. So I can use that key to be the insert key, and it's right in my hand wheelhouse where my hands are. I don't have to go way over here and sometimes miss. I can just go click because that's where my pinky sits. And when I'm done with the contact, I can just reach over to the next one and say thank you. I also have the period key set for F1. Don't have to reach all the way up there. I can just keep my hands in the home position and click on a period. Those are the key ones. Alt return is for a silent entry. Control enter puts, I forget exactly why I have it that way. I have to think about it automatically. Let's see. So that's quiet entry, and control enter is actually putting it in the band map without sending anything. This one, control S. If you hit control S, it'll swap the radios. And that's bad for the amplifiers if the amplifiers aren't auto-tuned coming along with you. So I've got that sort of, if you type control S, it does something completely different and won't break a radio or an amplifier. And then I set these page down and page up is how you increase or decrease the speed. It's actually Alt F9 and Alt F10. I want to be able to just quickly go up or down in speed rather than having to use two keys to do that. Make sense?
Can you set the increment?
No, I could do that.
That's
with-
actually the standard way on N1MM is page up and page 9.
You're right, exactly. The increment is 2.
Yeah.
I have a script. That I've attached to these before that moves them up one at a time instead of two at a time. But I don't. I like the 2 at a time, and you can also just set the speed. Where's that one? Just put up a window. No, that's not it. Never mind. Alt V.
I just like page
I
up and
could-
page down, and 2 is the same I'm used to.
Yeah, so I can set the speed by typing it into this little window that I just brought up. Okay. And put that window back up. So I think those are the main customizations that I do. But you know what MJ stands for now, right?
Mojo.
Yeah.
N6MJ.
Yeah, Mojo Mode. So just a little bit of an understanding here. This sets the headphones. This puts me in Mojo Mode because there's some things that I want it to do if I'm in Mojo Mode, and I don't want it to do if I'm in the regular SO2R mode. This switches the radios. This sets me up into the secondary radio call, and then it sends the log call, and does something to make sure that the software logic knows where that call came from. It's just a bunch of little pieces of automation I put in there. And then it's going to say, Dave, Texas, and it's going to send CQ on the other radio when I do this. As soon as it's finished sending to that guy, it's going to start a CQ on the other radio. That's pretty complicated stuff.
Yeah.
And it only does this. It only does that CQ if I haven't heard somebody and started typing something while it was sending my exchange to the other guy. So that's how you do the interleave QSOs, right? So you're listening and typing while the other radio is sending. And then as soon as that's over, you need to be listening and typing on the new one, and the other radio needs to be sending. So it's a lot of fun when it's working well. You know, I've seen in the NAQP here, I saw a last 10 minutes that was over 250 an hour, but I just wasn't getting as many answers as some other people were. All right. And also I'm a lid. I make mistakes. I forget what I'm doing. I'll forget that it's automatically going to send a CQ, and I'll hit enter and it'll start a CQ, and then that screws up the logic. I got to figure out how to, that's something that happened this time that I need to figure out how to fix.
I haven't heard you make any mistakes.
Oh, well, that's good. Kim did. He sent me a recording of me working him, and I called CQ again rather than answering him the first time. And that wasn't very good. That was a waste of time. And then on another contact I had with him, it took me a little bit longer than it should have to come back after he'd sent his name and state because I had something going on the other radio and I wasn't ready to swap focus yet. Because you're only allowed to use one signal at a time. If they were to change that rule, it'd be real easy for me and another operator to fake it like we were two different people, like we were one person instead of two different people.
Yeah, I see that.
But it makes it hard. You either had to have two computers and one for each radio and two keyboards and an interlock that prevents you from sending. But I like doing it through one keyboard because I can control better the flow, even though it takes a lot of concentration. But anyway, that's how it works. There's another cool feature, which is that if, for example, KG5 HVO, let's see, go back to 80. If a guy with a long call calls me, I could start the QSO and then finish his call before it's finished sending. So watch. I think N1MM does that. CT did that in its last version before Windows took over.
Yeah.
And I think so did N6TR's TR log. That's a really good feature because you don't want to have to wait till you're finished typing before it starts sending. Because you would do that on phone, right? If he called in, I would hear him say KG5 Hotel Victor Oscar, and I would hit the foot switch, KG5 Hotel Victor Oscar, Dave, Texas, and I'm still typing, right? And then he would say Bryant in Alabama, right? So that's the concept there. And there's a lot of other little wrinkles that are like that. Most of the wrinkles are the same between different logging programs. They're all based on, they tend to be all based on the original, which was CT by K1EA. And he was brilliant. And N6TR did some things, additional brilliant things in a different paradigm. And I used N6TR for a long time, TR log for a long time here. It's terrific for the sprint. It's terrific for SO2R. It's not so good for Mojo Mode.
Does WinTest support history files?
Yes. I hate history, but yes. It supports super check partial, right? So I could turn off the in-log only. In-log only was the requirement for WRTC, the last in iterations of WRTC, and I don't think they're going to change that rule. So I've been, for the last several years, been practicing not having suggestions show up. Like if I push KG5, you can see all the people that are in the super check partial in this long list right here, right? That have been worked by somebody before. If I push KG5F, there's a suggestion. If I heard KG5F FRL, then I might look at that and say, oh, I wonder if I got that wrong. Whereas if I didn't see that, I might just go on and enter it wrong, which would be really what I heard. But anyway, that's a really useful, really helpful thing. You can do exchange. Remember what people did last time, but then you get on and on a weekend like this one, and you'll work some guy in South Carolina whose name last time you worked him was Bob, but this time he says his name is Will because he and a bunch of friends are calling themselves Will in honor of AA4NC, who passed away suddenly a few months ago. So, if you just go on, you might not hear that. Or if it puts Don in there, then you got to go up at backspace and send, so I just like to hear it the first time and make sure that it's right every time I hear it after that. Okay, more questions?
Yeah, I mean, Dave, you obviously know that I use that QS order software. It helps me check my log, for things. Is it hooked in to WinTest?
I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't think so. What do you mean?
Well,
You mean
within
you
1MM,
use it live?
within 1MM, there's an IP address and a port that will broadcast out information when it completes a QSO, and that's how a QS order hooks into N1MM. As it detects there's been a QSO, and it looks at its buffer and says, "Aha, my buffer needs to be saved to the disk file."
Oh, and that is, it's like in real time saving it to your overall operating log as opposed to just the N1MM log.
Well, yeah, it's just a separate file. Each contact, the audio buffer, you have some parameters you define how big the buffer is, how long after the buffer, how many
Okay.
seconds after, and so on. But it just takes that buffer and sorry, that's my phone. Through a setting that you set in QS order, you can either save it as a WAV or an MPG file. And I save all mine as MPGs because they take up less disk space. But I've got, 1,200 files on my disk from NAQP.
Right. Okay. So you're recording that.
And
That's cool.
it grabs that information that comes in on that loopback port, and it knows who you're working, and it embeds that into the file name so that you can then go look at your files and say, I need to find K9EY. And
Oh, that's cool.
That is really cool. So the contest recorder function I don't use currently. N6TV swears by it. He can send me a snippet that has my QSO from anytime he's worked me in the last 10 years, I think.
wow.
But I haven't used it much. I've got to start recording again. I recorded a lot back in the 90s. And then back in the 90s, it wasn't uncommon for people to use a recording and then go back through the recording and make corrections to their log. And then that became recognized as maybe not the best way to behave. Like calling up a guy and asking him, did you work me? I think I worked you. Did you work me? You don't do that after the contest. And you don't review your log, your recordings to correct your log. What you did during the contest is your log. But it is useful to have to listen to later and see what mistakes you made when you get the UBN or log check report, and it says that you didn't work the 3B8 that you worked on 40 meters and you thought was a great double multiplier. And you can listen to the QSO and say, well, he came back to me. I don't know why I wasn't in his log. Or, oh, he didn't come back to me. He came back to, KH7M or something like that. And I just blew it. So that's helpful to be able to look back on. So in that case, see, I would be playing much of the whole contest to listen to what I worked and why I screwed up, because my log check report has a lot of errors. 1% at least. I'm not as good as the best.
Well, what I did with the NAQP is I wrote a macro that walked through the entire file. I took the Creo file and imported it in a space to limited version and looked to see if I had a busted call by looking at the name and state and see if it matched, and it had to match the call sign. And I had one that didn't. So I went to the audio file to listen. And sure enough, the guy blew his own call sign calling me, and I copied it the way he sent it. And so now I'm sitting there going, well, crap, what do I do now?
Farking bastages. Yeah, well, you leave it the way it is because it's the way it was. But that's frustrating when that happens.
That's what I did.
Did you work WB2 RPW?
Doesn't ring a bell.
He was the guy with the absolute worst fist ever.
Oh, well, there was one guy that was really bad that I had to guess at his call.
Yeah.
When I answered him.
Well, that was the guy. He sent it 3 times and I got 3 different things. And I said, WB2 something.
Finally,
Please
just
again.
go on.
No, he got it right. He was loud. He was covering up the other guys. So anyway, that happens.
He finally got his own call right.
Well, he was sending
for
with his
him.
left. He was sending with his left foot. I mean, it was terrible.
QLF.
I wish I had the recording on so I could play it for you.
Well,
Anyway.
I leave QS order running a lot, even when if I'm just chasing the odd DX station, and there's a hotkey. I think it's Control-Alt-O. I think I've defined for it that if I work somebody, I can hit Control-Alt-O and it throws the buffer to the disk file, kind of with a generic name, and I can go rename it. But then I can go back and listen to the queue. Or what I did recently was I worked a couple of years ago, the XX9D Expedition by the Brazilian bunch. And I sent them all of their QSOs and they were just ecstatic to get to hear themselves.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Now, you always wonder when you go on an expedition how you sound. Well, there you go. So you can do that with this. I've just not done it.
Do you know guys that use this software with the YCCC SO2R box?
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I've got.
Yeah, I have one over there that I haven't put together. I'd like to find one that's been assembled and working, and then I could put the other one together and make it work the same way. I'm not sure I could build it and be sure it would work. Plus,
Oh,
I would prefer not to have a unique item that I don't have a spare for.
well, mine's unique because I bought one used. It was a refurb and that's the only one I got.
Well, we've had enough lightning here that I would figure that I'd come in one time and it would not work and I'd be up creek.
I know that feeling.
Any more questions about wind test? I have a real good question about why the telnet's not working.
Dave, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Oh, why have you ever had any trouble with those serial port emulators and the quality of CW being sent with Windows?
I use emulator. I don't have any trouble with it.
I have, well, there's a couple things. One is you got to have a really good serial port emulator that has the FTDI chip. If it doesn't have the FTDI proper chip, then it may not work. It may get choppy. It may stutter, and that's what I call terrible. If that happens, there used to also be a problem with the XP computers where the parallel port would stutter, but I haven't had that problem recently. Let's see, now the telnet's working. Good. I think it was disabled because I was in that other.
What cluster do you go to?
That's a good question. Let's see. Let's see what we're hooked up to. V7CC. I think I have it set. Yeah, I think that because it was for various reasons, I think I have it set to only pass spots from W's and B's. And only the contest bands.
Do you know if that node uses the AB5K software? It looks like it from the commands that are in there.
I just connected, so what does it say? CC cluster software.
Okay.
Which is a lot like AB5K, but it's not. So you go to this guy's website here and you figure out what you're doing.
Do you know if anybody's picked up AB5K software since he passed?
I don't know. That's a great question. I haven't heard. I don't use the cluster very much myself. So test network. I think that this set to be only US guys is from back in the summer when we were we did the W1AW thing, NU1AW thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. I also have used LPL. I've used the RBN directly, but it's better to go to an aggregator like CC. That's on this computer. I haven't, let's see. Yeah. I have a bunch of other profiles on another computer, on the old computer that I didn't bring over here, like K3LR. And I have used a European one once for the WAE, but that was a long time ago. Yeah. Okay. And it just talks through the same WinTest network, right? Since I have it inside the same computer, I only have one computer on the network right now. It's going through this way. But if I were to set it up with a multi-op, have multiple computers, then this would have a regular address.
Mm-hmm.
But all that's it may look a little different from time to time, but it's the same stuff that all these software do, right? So Dennis uses this as his general logging. He doesn't work a lot of guys that he logs. He talks to a lot of guys on 75, but he also loves to get on CW and work guys. So he logs them in here. Take out an ADIF every now and then for him. So there ain't much being spotted on 20 meters, is there?
Nope, not right now.
Everybody went to sleep.
20's dead.
There's a few guys on 40, a few guys we know, like this club member, former club member.
Oh, that's Hose.
Yep. I don't know what he's doing. Is there a CWT tonight, or was that last night?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. No.
There's a sprint of some kind because Dale left to go participate.
Yeah,
No, there you are.
an NS Sprint, I think it was.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that's- Yeah, people are getting warmed up for the sprint coming up in a couple of weeks. Not me.
I can
go
tell
into it
20's
cold
dead
every
because there's
time.
not even FT8 people on. Jeez,
You're
That's
kidding.
really good.
that's bad.
That can't be right.
I'm just looking at the band scope. It's just, I don't see hardly anything on FT8 even on the band scope.
Boy, I don't either. I don't hear anything. Oh my goodness.
What's
What's
up?
happened? Yeah,
No
I mean,
FT8.
I'll tell you, I was during an off time in the NAQP on Saturday night, and about this time, that was close to 0300, and I tuned down to the bottom of 20, and there was a BG5 talking to a BG7, 2x3 call signs at about 20 words a minute, talking about local QR Nancy and weather. I thought, holy cow. And they were like the only signals on the band. Wow, look at that. So I called CQ and nobody answered. And they could barely hear each other through their local line noise, and they couldn't hear me. So phooey. But the band was open. That was a good sign. There were a lot more spots that night. Tonight, the sunspots are a little down.
I heard a Yankee Bravo 7, I think it was, long path on 40 just before I moved to 80 tonight.
Wow. Wow.
That's a stretch.
That's in the evening. That's cool. So somebody was talking about the sunspot solar cycle. I've been watching this chart from the NOAA, and this is the prediction, the consensus prediction, smooth. And we've been ahead of the prediction basically since November of 19, when the cycle switched. The last one ended and this one started. But I don't think we're that far ahead of it to really indicate much. Nobody knows whether it's going up faster because there's going to be a double peak, or it's going up faster because it's better. Who knows? But I know it's been good. It's been a lot better. This month's not as good as last month, but it's going to be pretty darn good. So that's quite a big jump in sunspot number, and a similar big jump in average flux. The average flux in December was over 100. There you go.
Jeez.
We need it.
Yeah, and January is not quite as good, but it's been pretty good. So having 10 meters open a few days ago was pretty nice. Open all over. So yeah, at the start of the NAQP, there was F layer skip from coast to coast, and for about a half an hour, and then about an hour after, or just after that, I don't know when it started, but just after that, it opened up short skip for us. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I missed the first 10-meter opening, but then there was another one in the late afternoon that I worked a few stations.
Yeah, right.
Kept going there and listening, but I was at the wrong time, I guess, because I had a hell of a run going on 20.
Right. Not right. Well, it's hard to leave 20 when you're packing them in.
Rate is king.
It is. That's why I like the mode. I can do 2 bands. So my mistake, I made a mistake in the first hour and tried 15 and 10 together. I should have been on 20 and 10, and then 20 and 15. But lesson learned. Always check 10 at the beginning, even if it's only for a few minutes, because it's the one time when the most people are there is at the very beginning. See if they can work anybody. And then after that, it's a crapshoot as to whether they're there or not. And you are.
Yeah, well, at least you can knock out a few mults and then go somewhere else.
Yep. So any more questions about wind test? I think we covered about everything.
Yeah, I think you have too. It's been
Very informative.
mind-boggling.
Very impressive software.
Looks like, yeah, I was gonna say, very impressive software. For UCW guys, that's great. For guys like me who just do SSP and FT8 and RTTY, looks to me like I could use this too.
Yeah, you could. I think that N1MM is equally good. I'm not sure that I could customize it as much as I customize WinTest. But I think I could adapt if like WinTest were no longer supported. But they're still supported and they're still going strong with it. They're not upgrading it very much, but they're still fixing little things.
But by not upgrading it, that tells me that the initial package was very well thought out.
Yeah, it was. There were some stupid things in it, but it ran on Windows and it covered the CQ Worldwide, which is where I was at the time. That's what I needed, and so we used it. And I get a kick out of making the automation work. So that's another thing. That's fun for me. And so if it's not fun for you, then go to N1MM, where most of the automation that I would use is already there, because N2IC being on the programming team has made it so. And he knows that software backwards and forwards. And I made 1,500 contacts in the contest, and he made 2,300 contacts. So,
Well, he's an animal,
yeah, he's definitely that. He is definitely that.
and he's in every contest,
Well,
like an AA3B.
no, he's not as bad as that. He's not as bad as Bud. Bud makes 130,000 QSOs a year. Guys, that's really sort of unidimensional. Too
I think
much.
he's
So
got a
for me.
lap board with a key on his crapper.
He didn't get how much.
Yeah,
I
I
was
think.
gonna say, how does a guy eat? How does he go to sleep? How does he go to the bathroom?
Well, he also gets more than 10,000 steps a day, runs several miles a day, works out every day.
Is he married?
He's married.
Really?
Fixes
Impossible.
How many
Yeah.
times?
I was gonna say, I don't believe that. He may have a wife. I don't think he's married.
No way. I don't believe it.
I don't either. But I met his wife in 2018. So
So you know it's true, huh?
it's true.
She
Yeah.
might have been rented.
Nah, I don't think so. But at any rate, no, it's the TDXS society, the TDXS of old had more divorces than not divorced, because we were also crazy about radio. And I figured out before I got divorced that I better figure out a better way to manage this. But still, probably spend too much time on it as it is. There's much more important things in life.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway.
remember.
Well, you know the magic words for being married, right?
Yes, dear.
Yes,
You got it.
absolutely right. Well, there
Yeah.
you go, Kim. The only real DX on here is on 80.
Yeah, you're right.
So Alan, can we postpone your presentation on N1MM until next month?
That's fine. I mean, I really hadn't prepared anything. I was just gonna really quickly go over my setup and
That would be great if
why I do a few things the way I do them.
I'd
But
love to see a detailed thing from you on that.
you know, in reality, I'm not an N1MM power user, and there's going to be people probably sitting right here listening that are going to know a lot of things that I don't know. So maybe we can make it
Have a good conversation.
yeah, maybe
be a
we
great
can make it more of interactive thing. You know, this is what I do. This is what I do.
That's the best kind of meeting anyway.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
You know, maybe several people can have it up and pass it back and forth because, you know, like I say, there's a, you know, it's like any great software, like Word or Excel or whatever. If you even know 10%, you're a power user.
All right.
Because there's so many things there.
That's feature rich stuff.
Yeah.
I think the
N2IC
N1M
uses N1MM, doesn't he?
I imagine.
Because
he does.
I also know he's one of the developers because I see in the update notes that was coded by N2IC. So I bet there's a few things in there we don't know about.
Oh yeah. like this email that came out with a few secrets, stuff I never heard of.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's like, why would they have that feature? But I
Steve
think,
wanted it.
yeah, because Steve wanted it. But I think Steve's a good friend of mine actually, and we talk on the email a lot. And he wishes that N1MM himself and the rest of the team weren't quite so responsive to people asking for stupid stuff, because they've put into the software a bunch of really what he would call useless features that
Yeah,
only make it more complicated. And every time you add a feature, you run the risk of breaking other things, right?
Right.
So
One thing
he
I haven't
doesn't like that at
understood
all.
why I'm sure they've explained it. I don't understand why they don't put time on and time off in a window.
Just
But
that-
they've explained it a few times. I never quite understood or agreed with their explanation so much. So
Probably because they don't want to try to understand the rules and have you think that it's telling you according to the rules how to do things, because it's not. For example, see, I have the time on and time off on mine, right?
mhm.
But that's just to make sure that I'm roughly right, because I'm looking at my notepad where I've written down when I actually stopped and when I actually can make another contact according to the rules. And I want to make sure that when I look up at the screen, if I think I have an hour and a half of operating time left, that it thinks I have roughly that much left. Otherwise,
Right.
I may have made a mistake, right?
yeah.
But I don't rely on it to tell me that answer, because it may not be correct.
You seem to have this silly devotion to the rules.
The only way in an honor type system is to have that.
Yeah.
If you're going to be proud of your result, which I try to be, right, then you gotta be proud of the way you generated it.
Oh, bravo. Bravo.
And TDXS is known for finding the loopholes, but not for breaking, just for finding the loopholes.
Bending. Bending severely. Yes.
Taking the rules to their fullest extent.
That's how Terramina got his name of K5 rubber clock.
Yeah.
I like that.
I sat with him for like 8 hours going over paper logs in the CQ Worldwide. He was one of the log checkers, and he showed me how you determine rubber clocking, whether somebody did rubber clock. And once you know the algorithm, you can exploit the algorithm.
Aha.
If you read the NAQP rules, for example, from this last weekend, they make it really clear about off times. That if you work somebody at 02:28, you can't work somebody at 02:58. You have to wait till 02:59 to log a contact.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're making sure that it really is 30 minutes long.
Mhm.
And then they do a pretty tight look to see if you adjusted the time a little bit.
Well, it's only fair to everybody then. It just levels the playing field.
That's exactly right.
I don't think the playing field will ever really be level.
No, but
Not in
at
contesting.
least we can all follow the same rules. Right?
Yeah, the rules is one thing, level playing field,
But we'll never have that.
that will never happen.
Somebody told me one time, rules are just a guidance.
Well, there are, I can tell you, dealing with a lot of people with contracts in the past on projects I've worked on, a lot of them think that a contract is just a starting point for negotiation.
There you go.
So they think the same thing about rules, I'm sure.
Oh, the Koreans
When
are
I was in
terrible about
when I was in
Exactly.
Belize, when I was in
Koreans
Belize,
and Egyptians.
when I was in Belize one time, we were riding on a boat, and I looked down and I noticed that they had the fire extinguisher, but it was the pressure was 0. And I pointed that out to the captain. He said, well, "We're only required to have a fire extinguisher."
And we used it once and it worked.
That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't say it had to work.
Knowing the rules and bending the rules.
It worked when we bought it. It's out of warranty.
That's exactly right. Wow.
Again,
Okay,
Dave,
gentlemen.
I appreciate the inauguration to
Yeah,
Impressive software.
very good.
Thank you very much.
I will say that the software is pretty easy to use because I have worked that station out there a few times,
Mhm.
and Dave just gives me a little refresher on this, that, and the other, and away you go with it. It's not hard to use once it's all set up.
Yeah, it's really easy if you're just making contents. If you want to do this fancy switching between radio stuff, then it gets complicated.
Yeah, I
You gotta
used
be
it
able
at
to type.
KL7RA when I was up in Alaska a
Mhm.
lot, and that's what he used, and um, it worked. You know, I don't. But back then, I'm not sure that it had ESM mode. I'm not sure how long Wind Test has had ESM, but I didn't know it had it now. So that was something I did. That
Oh,
I
it's had
learned.
it for a long time.
Has
A
it?
long time.
Okay. I rarely use the function keys for contesting. I put it in ESM mode and it's enter this, enter type, period. That's what I do most of the time.
Right. I use for, if you're asking the question, I use ESM. Like for example, this weekend I use ESM. But if there's ever any uncertainty about whether when I push the enter key, it's going to do the right thing, then I push a key that I know it's going to do the right thing. Now that's happened sometimes when you're in the 2 radio mode. You get left-footed every now and then, and I like being able to push the right button and know it's going to do the right thing, as opposed to oh crap, and having to hit the escape and start over and confuse everybody on the other end.
Yeah.
I have that problem with the N1MM. I will enter a call sign and I say, I think I've worked him. So I hit the space bar to see if he populates the rest of the record and forget to go back. And then when I hit enter to send the message, it logs him and I'm, oh crap, now I gotta
Yeah,
go to the queue and
same
start
here.
over.
I do that. I've done that plenty of times, Kim. Plenty of times. And then I say, oh shit, I better work them real fast. Then I work them, and we don't have to change anything now.
Well, I did that one time. I worked in, but the other times it was one of those middle panic things. You go, oh crap, how do I fix this?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's when I learned better just go ahead and work them real fast. You don't have to correct anything.
And that's why I turn off ESM mode. I'd rather just push a function key and know what's going to happen.
I'm much faster with ESM.
Oh,
Yeah. It's faster, all right. You can get into trouble faster and you can go faster, both.
That and I have my automatic sending. I don't know what, I forget what MM calls it, but as you're typing the call sign, I let it start sending after the second character after the number.
Ooh,
Wow.
that's trouble too.
Yeah.
K5WA does that as well. He when he and I operated last August together in QP in August CW, I basically split the 2 radios, and with the second computer, and then each radio could still get any antenna it wanted, any band it wanted. But I had to set his computer up completely differently because he likes the automatic sending and he liked something, I forget what else he liked. There's a bunch of different things.
Well, if I've got a good run going, that helps me. But sometimes mentally, I don't hit the second, like if it's a 2x3 call, I don't hit the second and third characters in the suffix and to set the timing so I know it's going to send right.
Yeah, you have to wait. You have to be able to think in your head, I'm going to wait to push the third character if that's the one that's going to start sending until you know you're ready to start.
Yeah, that's why I say sometimes I have to delay because I use the second character after the number.
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to use it. And then somebody like, who is it? K2NV. K2NV might be at home or he might be portable VE3. And if you hear K2NV, you start typing, and then just as you push the N, you realize he's still sending portable something. You don't hear the portable something, so now you're screwed up.
Yeah.
So I prefer not to do that. I figure it I could start it sending whenever I want, because I can control that. All I have to do is type a couple of letters, and when I'm ready for it to start, I can push the enter key and then type the rest. I was lucky in 8th grade. Is it 8th grade? No, 9th grade. Yeah, 9th grade high school. I had an opening in my schedule, and somebody suggested, well, why don't you take typing? I said, why would I take typing? Because this is sexist, right? That's for girls. Well, I learned
And
two
it clicked
things.
and you go, oh yeah, I want to take typing.
Yeah, I thought, wait a minute, it's going to be all girls in that class. Plus, the real advantage was I learned how to type, and that helped me a whole lot in college. It also helped me when we transitioned to having, to operating this way rather than the straight key. So
I did the same thing. I took typing in high school.
Same here.
Same
Yeah.
here.
yeah,
And I forgot probably most of it.
yeah, great minds and all that. I haven't lost it. I can still not look at the keyboard and type. With a little bit of arthritis setting in, I don't always reach as far as I think I'm reaching, and so I have some typos that way now.
Mhm.
Where did it appear first, Dave, in your hands, the arthritis?
Right hand pinky from banging on the table when I was younger,
Oh,
and then
mine's the
Also-
thumbs.
also I have a little bit of see if I can get this one. This movement with the thumb gets caught up in my left hand. I don't know why.
It's kind of similar to trigger finger, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
My mom's had that. She's 92, but she got a cortisone shot, took care of it, at least for the time being. So
Yeah,
it may be something simple to take care of that.
Well, I've had 3 of them so far. I've had one on my ring finger, or my pivot finger, whatever you want to call that finger. I've had one on my thumb, so I don't know why they call it a trigger finger. And now I've got one again, and it's on my little finger on my left hand.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's not pain, right? Really, it's just sort of a little bit of stiffness. I'm
Mine snaps.
beginning to have a little bit of pain, but it's mostly just stiffness.
Yeah, it snaps at you. Doesn't
Yeah.
fall. You close your
Growing
hand
old.
and it doesn't follows.
Growing
old.
old is not for the faint of heart.
No, it stinks.
No. Definitely
And
not.
mine started out with stiffness and now it's advanced to pain about 24/7 in my thumb joints.
The wrong
no.
things to get
Yeah.
stiff, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
the wrong. Yeah, right.
I'd have another preference for something getting stiff.
No,
Right.
that's not to send to that
Oh,
level.
You'd think it'd be Thursday at noon, huh? Thursday
Yeah,
at lunch.
that's typical Thursday lunch banter.
Oh, man.
Okay,
Hey,
guys.
y'all ought to join our Thursday lunches.
Can't see, can't pee, can't hear, and stiff in all the wrong places.
There you go.
Yeah, that's getting old.
I was looking here at the screen, and there's only one person here that I don't see with glasses on. His name's Tim. Every one of us is wearing glasses.
He's got the cheaters.
I can take them off, I just can't see.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you something else. This distance from me to the computer,
Just not-
I don't wear the glasses during the contest. It's
Yeah.
just at the right spot between my nearsightedness taking over at distance and my farsightedness taking over a short. So
Hmm.
fortunately, there's like a null right at just past arm's length,
Yes.
and that's where the screen is for me. And the reason I do that is because I've got these fancy lenses that are multifocal, right? Look through them this way to read, look through them this way to see
I hate them.
the distance. Oh, I love it for normal life,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
in this situation, I wear my neck out during the contest.
exactly.
Right.
It's like going to the grocery. Like going to the grocery store and you're trying to look
These
at the
are-
top shelf and
These are computer glasses and they're big lenses. So I got them specifically for, contesting and working on
good
the
idea.
computer. So I have my regular glasses for walking around, but when I'm on the computer, especially contesting, then I wear this set of glasses. That's what you gotta do. That's what I
I
have.
may
Yeah, I
have to
see,
do
I see
that.
Jeff doesn't have any glasses at all.
But he doesn't know what he's looking at.
I have a pair of glasses where my prescription is inverted. So that
Really?
my reading area is not at the bottom, it's at the top of the lens. And that's what I use when I contest.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Ah.
see.
And,
I didn't
uh,
know you could do that. That's
That
cool.
prescription is set for 31 inches, which is the space from my nose to the
Yeah.
screen.
one of the things that I've done in my setup for both my logs is in order to keep my head movement to a minimum, I have the logging window down low on the screen. There's a lot of other things on the screen that I look at occasionally. And I may look up like this and do that. But when I'm logging, when I'm working a contest, I have very little head movement because everything that's important is down low.
Well, once I got those glasses with the inverted prescription, I don't have to
It's
move my
all
head
up
and I
high.
can see both of my 26-inch screens clearly,
Yeah.
That's cool.
I have to tell you something. Years ago,